Imagine discovering that the very quality you thought made you a good partner, your kindness, your generosity, your willingness to accommodate others, is actually sabotaging your chances at deep connection. That sinking feeling when you realize all those times you put someone else's needs first, all those moments you swallowed your own desires to keep the peace, weren't bringing you closer to love but pushing it further away. We've all been there. That moment when you catch yourself saying yes, when every cell in your body wants to say no, when you realize you've spent weeks, months, maybe even years, molding yourself into what you think someone else wants, only to watch them become increasingly distant, disinterested, or even disrespectful. What most people don't realize is that this pattern isn't just frustrating, it's actually rooted in fascinatingly complex psychology that few of us understand. Let's explore what's really happening when kindness becomes a relationship liability. There's a scene in the film Good Will Hunting that captures this perfectly. Robin Williams' character gently confronts Matt Damon, saying with deep compassion in his voice, "You're not perfect, sport. And let me save you the suspense. This girl you met, she isn't perfect either. But the question is whether or not you're perfect for each other." He delivers this with such warmth yet firmness. This moment illustrates something profound about attraction. It's not about being flawless or endlessly accommodating. It's about authentic connection between two whole people who see each other clearly. When we bend over backwards to please someone, we often deny them the chance to see who we really are. And here's the irony. By trying to be perfect, we make deep connection impossible. I remember a friend who described his dating pattern as the disappearing act. He said with frustration in his voice, "I start every relationship being incredibly attentive, agreeing with everything they say, putting their needs first. And like clockwork, about 2 months in, they lose interest or tell me I'm too nice before ending things." The confusion and hurt in his eyes was palpable. What my friend was experiencing wasn't random bad luck. It was something psychologists call covert contracts. Unspoken agreements we create in our minds where we give in hopes of receiving something in return without ever communicating those expectations. Now, let's unpack why we fall into these patterns in the first place. Think about that pivotal scene in The Devil Wears Prada, where Anne Hathaway's character finally stands up to Meryl Streep after months of saying yes to impossible demands. There's a visible shift in how Streep's character responds, with surprise, then something that looks almost like respect. This moment illustrates something psychologists have long understood about human behavior. We value what challenges us appropriately. But for those of us who developed people-pleasing tendencies early in life, setting boundaries feels nearly impossible. And this pattern almost always begins in childhood. Perhaps you were the peacekeeper in a chaotic family. Maybe your love and acceptance were contingent on being good or helpful. Or possibly expressing your needs was met with disappointment, anger, or withdrawal of affection. As children, these adaptations are brilliant survival strategies. When we're small and dependent, tuning our behavior to keep the important adults in our lives happy is adaptive. Our emotional brain learns that if I'm nice enough, accommodating enough, invisible enough when necessary, I'll be safe. I'll be loved. But here's what happens. We grow up, and that same emotional brain keeps running the same program, even when the situation has completely changed. You're no longer that defenseless child, but your nervous system doesn't know that yet. Here's where the relationship between kindness and attraction gets really interesting. Consider the character development in Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth Bennet doesn't win Darcy's heart by agreeing with him or accommodating his every whim. Quite the opposite. Her willingness to challenge him, to hold her ground, even when it would be easier not to, is precisely what captivates him. The truth that many don't realize is that healthy attraction requires tension, not conflict, but the natural, energizing tension that exists between two people who maintain their separate selves while choosing to come together. When we become too accommodating, we unwittingly remove this essential tension. It's like trying to create electricity with only one pole. Physics simply doesn't allow it. There's a fascinating psychological concept called self-verification theory that helps explain this. Essentially, humans have a fundamental need to be seen and understood accurately, even if that accurate perception includes flaws. When someone is overly nice, consistently putting aside their own preferences and opinions, they create an interaction that feels fundamentally inauthentic. I had a friend who told me, her voice filled with revelation, "I realized I've been showing up as this perfect, agreeable version of myself and then feeling devastated when people don't love the real me. But how could they? They've never met her." The sadness in her voice gradually shifted to determination as she shared this insight. So what's the alternative to this people-pleasing pattern? Remember in When Harry Met Sally, how their relationship only works once they both stop trying to be what they think the other wants. There's that pivotal New Year's Eve scene where Billy Crystal rushes in and finally says, breathlessly and with complete vulnerability, "I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible." This moment works because it's authentic, unfiltered truth, the very opposite of calculated people-pleasing. True connection, paradoxically, requires maintaining a healthy separation. It's about knowing where you end and the other person begins. It's finding that sweet spot between caring deeply about someone else's needs while staying connected to your own. The good news is that even if you've been caught in people-pleasing patterns for decades, your brain has an amazing capacity to create new neural pathways. This isn't about becoming selfish or unkind. It's about bringing authenticity to your kindness. One powerful technique many find helpful is what therapists call the boundary bridge, a practice that helps us communicate limits while maintaining connection. This approach recognizes that healthy boundaries aren't walls keeping others out. They're more like bridges that allow for genuine intimacy. Here's how you might practice this. When you feel that familiar urge to automatically say yes when you want to say no, pause for a breath. Acknowledge the person's request with warmth, then express your truth while affirming the relationship. Something like, "I care about you deeply, and I also need to honor my own needs right now. I can't take on that commitment, but I'm still here for you." Notice how this combines warmth with clarity. There's no apology for having limits, just a human being communicating honestly with another human being. Remember in The Notebook, when Ryan Gosling's character says, with passionate intensity, "Would you stop thinking about what everyone wants? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?" That raw authenticity is what makes the moment so powerful. What most people discover is that setting boundaries doesn't drive away the people who truly value you. It actually deepens those connections while naturally filtering out relationships that were based on exploitation rather than mutual care. We don't just suddenly transform from people pleasers into boundaried individuals overnight. Like character development in any great film, this change happens scene by scene, choice by choice. But here's what I can promise you. With each time you honor your true feelings, with each moment you practice expressing needs clearly, you're creating a new story, one where your kindness comes from genuine choice rather than fear of rejection. What situations have you found yourself automatically saying yes when you wanted to say no? Have you noticed connections between these patterns and how people respond to you romantically? Share your experience in the comments. Sometimes naming these patterns is the first step toward changing them. If you found value in understanding these relationship dynamics, consider subscribing to join our community. We're all learning to navigate the delicate balance between giving and self-preservation, and your voice enriches this conversation for everyone. Thank you for journeying with me today. Remember, the most beautiful landscapes are often hidden beneath the surface. Keep exploring.